All right, good morning. Good morning and welcome to the 2020 State of the Villages Breakfast. Thank you for coming this morning. I'm Jamie Mesher, and I am the president of the Southwest Allegany County Chamber of Commerce this year. If you look inside your programs, I have a few organizations I would like to thank in helping prepare and make today's event a success. And then we will move along to the rest of the program. The First Church of New Knoxville for hosting the State of the Villages at the facility again this year. Looks like we might have to add on if it gets any bigger. Miller's Textile Services for providing the table linens and napkins for today's event. NK Telco for recording and rebroadcasting today's event. And Main Street Station for preparing this morning's breakfast buffet. Grand Lake Health System for the water at each place setting. And Dannon Yogurt for providing yogurt for the event. Would like to also thank everyone in the audience for chamber member businesses and organizations, because without our business association, we would miss the opportunity to come together and listen to our speakers for today's State of Our Villages addresses. If you would please stand and remain standing through the conclusion of the invocation. At this time, I would like to welcome to the podium Rex Ketterhendrick, Village Administrator of New Knoxville, as he leads the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please follow me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rex. At this time, we welcome to the podium Miss Lily Rindler for singing of our national anthem. Miss Rindler is a student at New Bremen Local Schools and daughter of Ryan and Karen Osterfeld and the late Kyle Rindler.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've asked Pastor Trent Flutterjohn to offer the invocation this morning. Pastor Flutterjohn is the pastor at Faith Alliance Church in New Bremen. He's filling in for Pastor Buckland this morning, who is home with sick children.
Thanks, Jamie. Would you pray with me? Well, Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this new morning that you've given to us. We thank you we have the health to be here and just the ability to go to work and invest in these communities. We thank you for the communities that we represent and are able to be a part of. Father God, we just pray for our local leaders, state leaders, national leaders, that you just give us the wisdom that we need to lead communities well, to lead individuals well and businesses well. So Lord, again, thankful for this time that we have. We thank you for the food that we have, Lord, the hands that prepared it. We pray, God, that you just keep us strong with the food that we have and give us the energy we need to live for you and to glorify you in all things. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Fletcher-John. At this time, we will begin the breakfast buffet line with our guests of honor at the head table, and then start from the east side of the room to the west. So we'll start from this side, move on. And once everyone has had a chance to go through the line, we'll, when the speakers have finished, we'll begin the program. Thank you. Our new executive director for the chamber this year is Miss Sarah Topp, and Miss Topp is going to kick off our program. So here's Miss Topp.
Good morning, everyone. For all of those who do not know who I am, like Jamie said, I am Sarah Topp. I took over as executive director last Monday, so bear with me. Anybody who is here, if you want to stand, you can. If not, if you can at least raise your hand so everybody kind of knows where you're at. Board members, you will be standing. Okay, so we have our wonderful Auglaize County Commissioners, Douglas Spencer, Don Regula, John Bergman, and their probably trusty sidekick, Administrator Erica Preston, and Mr. Auglaize County Sheriff Al Solomon. Thank you for coming on short notice. Ms. Brenda Boakey from the Minster School Superintendent. I think she's over there to my right. And then for the Village of Minster, we have Village Administrator Don Herod, Police Chief Dave Friend, Council members Rick Swartz, Paul Enneking, Kurt Albers, Craig Oldigas, Tom Herkenoff, Nicole Clooney. For Village of New Bremen, we have Village Administrator Chris Dickey, Fiscal Officer Amy Spielman, Economic Development Director Angela Hamburg, Police Chief Mike Skinner, and our council members, Don Cook, Jim Cronenberger, Jacob Larger, Brent Richter, and Jessica Lamakin, who is newly joining the council team. For Village of New Knoxville, we have Village Administrator Rex Kataheinrich, Fiscal Officer Abby Homan, Police Chief Chris McKinney, and Assistant Fire Chief Jack Leffel. Council members Chris Weaver, Juanita Williams, Dwayne Steinecker, and then our lovely out-of-town guests. Susan Manchester was supposed to be here. She had a meeting come up this morning, so she does have a video, so we'll see from her remarks. Mr. Cameron Warner, District Director for Congressman Jim Jordan. So Cameron will come up later and talk, but I do also have a video from Jim. Ms. Kayla Schreffler, she is the Northwest District Representative for Senator Rob Portman's office. So those two will talk later. And our chamber board members for 2020. We have Alex Monier for St. Henry Bank, our board president, Jamie Mesher, Community Insurance Group. Carol Jones is here with Wright State University Lake Campus. Teg Bergstrom, Neil Armstrong Airport. Stephanie Heitkamp, Wagner's IGA. Anna Rammel with the New Bremen Foundation. And we also have Angie Klosterman with Marketing Essentials, Todd Wygant with Area Energy and Electric, and Carolyn Bach, Village of New Knoxville. And then we will be hearing from our local mayors, Mr. Keith Leffel, Village of New Knoxville, Dennis Kitzmiller, Village of Minster, and New Bremen's newly appointed mayor, Mr. Robert Parker. So at this moment, I would like to have those who are veterans of the armed forces, please stand. We would like to recognize you for your service. Thank you very much for your service. We would also like to recognize the villages of Minster, New Bremen, and New Knoxville for their support of this event and of the chamber. Now we will get to the other remarks. I would like to welcome, well, we're going to play Susan's video, so she has a little informational video for you guys.
Hi, Golden Triangle. This is your state representative, Susan Manchester, for the 84th House District. I'm really sorry that I couldn't be there today, but just wanted to say how grateful I am to represent the villages of New Knoxville, New Bremen, and Minster. You guys truly are just some of the strongest supportive communities that I know in this state, and I'm so grateful for all of the hard work and dedication of the folks who live in these villages. Right now I'm in Columbus. The Ohio House and Senate are working through some education issues, so hopefully we'll have those resolved within the next couple of days. I have now been in the Ohio House for 1 year, and it's really been an honor and a privilege to serve you during that time. I've been able to pass a few pieces of legislation that I'm really proud of and excited about. One of them is House Bill 8, which would reform the way that Ohio does foster care. That passed unanimously through the Ohio House and is currently awaiting action in the Senate. And I'm also working on House Bill 183, which would award a tax credit for landowners who sell or rent land or assets to beginning farmers, called the Beginning Farmer Tax Credit. Those are just a few things that I've been working on. The Beginning Farmer Tax Credit did pass unanimously out of the House Agriculture Committee, and I'm hopeful that it will be on the House floor for a vote soon. It's really been a great year. I am so thankful for all of the input I've received from all of you. And I would encourage you to continue contacting my office if there's ever anything you need. Feel free to come to Columbus if you'd like to visit us. I'm also hosting office hours at AltSpace in New Bremen on the last Monday of every month from 11 to 1 p.m. I've had the honor of meeting with so many of you during that time, and just encourage anyone else who's interested to stop on by. Thanks again for all that you do, and I look forward to seeing you guys throughout this next year.
Okay, so next up, I'll have Cameron come up before we play the video, if he doesn't mind.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all again. I think this is my 8th year running now with you all, so thank you for continuing to invite me back and letting me be a poor stand-in for the boss. This was the year that I actually thought it was going to happen. Sarah. So I'd actually talked because before Christmas, it was the first time, and as long as I can remember, that Jim was actually going to be available to be back in district to give the update instead of me being here at the podium. But I think it was right before New Year, I think the House leadership pulled that day back because they're going to now have votes. It was yesterday and today were the 2 days we were going to work with. But as it turned out, I mean, with all the other stuff happening in Washington, I think he was probably going to have to be out there for that anyway. So thank you for letting me be here. Yeah, good thing things in Washington are quiet, right? Nothing to report on there. Obviously we all know what's happening on there. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that. In fact, Jim hits all this stuff in the video, so I just wanted to actually issue a couple other challenges on a couple other fronts. So, you had the whole CNN Don Lemon thing this week, which if you haven't seen that, Google it, watch it. It's interesting. It helps the public discourse a lot. Just further drives that wedge to some extent, but I'm going to get to it in a minute. So just check it out. But I guess one thing that it does, if nothing else, it makes me appreciate the guys at this table a lot more with your local media for reasons that, again, I'll get to here in a minute. But some of the things they talked about in there, they basically issued, if you're a supporter of this president, you're ignorant of the world, you're a credulous boomer rubes, you're not very familiar with geography, maps, or lines on a map. And I guess the reason why I'm bringing this all up now is because, first of all, it's just so interesting at a time where Eric Holder and the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, which has labeled themselves as a nonpartisan entity, is scouring the country, particularly looking for Republican-controlled states to address the issue of gerrymandering that took place, right? So I just kind of thought it was just so ironic that they're doing that because evidently we draw lines too well while telling us that we don't know lines on a map. So anyways, I just thought that was interesting. Also bringing up the point of free speech, and again, the guys at the table here, how important it is in this country that we have it. Doesn't always mean that we have to like what people say. But I think what we do need to be responsible for is the equal application of it and our ability to avoid double standards and just certain measures that are, where some folks are held to account a little bit more than others. Kind of feel like that might have been one of those situations. And just closing on that too, make sure, if you do Google that video, make sure you Google his apology for it for the following night. If you've ever wronged someone in your life, watch that video. It's how not to apologize. So guys, especially if you're married and you're don't do what Don did, okay? That's all I'll say. Now, bringing it back to what was really important, and thank you for letting me speak my heart here in just a second, because in the time that I've been working for Jim, this is my 14th year with Jim, was with him from day one, and a lot of times people ask you what you've learned in that time, and the one thing that I continue to come back to, and we're in a church facility, so I hope you don't mind if I bring a little church here just for a second, but the problem that ails this country, Washington, D.C. is not going to be the solution to it, and I think you all know that in this room. I mean, our founders obviously intended it to be a bottom-up, local, state, federal, that small, limited federal government, and obviously we've totally turned that thing on its head, but again, just for me to bring the point home, and I know you're already doing this in this community, but we can always be better, right? But I issue the challenge of Mark 12, right, where two things that we're told to do. One is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, which that in itself is enough. I mean, that's a good challenge to reflect on. But then what's the second part? And love your neighbor as yourself. And again, you guys are already embodying this, but we can always do a little bit better. And just remember, when we say neighbor, we are talking about the rest of the country, we're talking about the rest of the world, but specifically, literally, we are talking about our neighbors. So the challenge I issue to you is, when you get home, and whether you've already done it or not, you walk out that front door, you take a look to your left, you take a look to your right, that's your neighbor. Like, those are the people you're to impact. And you all know the depth and the level that goes to. I mean, you love them like you need to. Some neighbors are easier to love than others. I get it, but you got to keep trying with the notion and the challenge that when we do that, that's, again, how all these problems get fixed. So sometimes we just lean too heavily on DC to fix this stuff. And I'm just telling you, when we do that, we put our heart there, we're going to continually be disappointed. So, again, the challenge is do what you can in your world, and that's one of the things that we can do. So, again, thank you for letting me speak my heart on that. And we'll go to Jim's video here, and you can get his heart and all the things that are happening on DC too. Thank you.
Hello, I want to first apologize for not being able to be with you this morning, but let me thank each of our mayors for the great work they do there in Southwest Auglaize County. We certainly appreciate just the amazing villages that you all have and the wonderful communities that you represent and the wonderful communities I get to represent here in the United States Congress. And let me also thank Jeff Pape for his 16 years as mayor in New Bremen. That's almost as long as you've all been stuck with me in one office or another. So we appreciate Mr. Pape's great work. I also want to thank Logan O'Neill and the Chamber for this event, and congratulations to Sarah Topp, who will be taking over as Chamber Director soon. Again, I apologize for not being able to be with you. I was looking forward to it, but there's this little trial going on in the United States Senate that has consumed so much of our time. I mean, frankly, for me, it's been just 4 months since this thing started back in September. But the good news is, I think it's going to end soon. And the good news is that the facts are all on the president's side. I think the American people understand that, and there will be an acquittal, which is exactly what should happen for the president, hopefully later this week. The other good news is just our amazing economy. Under President Trump's leadership, we have seen taxes cut, regulations reduced, the economy growing at truly an unbelievable clip, lowest unemployment in 50 years, wages going up, the stock market has hit record highs. So it's been amazing to see what the president has got accomplished in the economic area. But also, the Gorsuch and Kavanaugh in the court, other great judges added to our federal bench. In foreign policy, we're out of that Iran deal. The embassy is now, in fact, in Jerusalem. The hostage has been returned from North Korea. Soleimani and al-Baghdadi have been eliminated, two of the most evil people on the planet. So great accomplishments there. And just in the past week, President Trump became the first president of the United States to speak in person at the March for Life rally just last Friday. Yesterday, the president announced a new Middle East peace plan, standing right beside Prime Minister Netanyahu. And then, of course, today there was the signing of the USMCA, the new NAFTA agreement, which again I think is going to help our economy. So good things happening. Obviously, good things happening there in Auglaize County. The president was out last fall and visited there Pratt Industries and that new amazing business that's coming to town. And of course, last summer we celebrated Neil Armstrong stepping on the moon when he made that amazing statement, one small step for man, but one giant leap for mankind. And in so doing, just demonstrated what a wonderful part of the state that we all get to be a part of, and maybe most importantly, what a great country we live in. So thank you again for giving me the privilege of representing you in the United States Congress. Polly and I look forward to getting back there real soon and getting a chance to visit with all of you. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, up next would be Kayla Schreffler, Northwest District Representative for Senator Rob Portman's office.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry if I sound like I just woke up. Normally, I probably still would be just waking up. I'm not sure that I can follow Cam very well, but I'm going to give you an overview of the Senator's 2019, what we were able to accomplish. So in total, in 2019, 21 of Portman's bills and 3 of his amendments were signed into law. That makes, in total, during his 9 years in the Senate, a successfully enacted 172 pieces of legislation, including 126 bills and 46 amendments. In total, he's introduced more than 400 bills, and more than 300 of those have been bipartisan, which is a real priority for us over in the Senate. This year, Senator Portman was able to deliver on his promise to combat the ongoing drug crisis in the country by securing the enactment of the Combating Meth and Cocaine Act, which gives states more flexibility to use federal opioid funding to address the resurgence of meth and cocaine. We also secured funding once again for the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, which helps expand education, treatment, and recovery services to those struggling with addiction. He worked to create more jobs and economic opportunity for Ohioans, including those living in rural areas, by encouraging infrastructure and broadband development. In addition, he was able to enact a number of his priorities pertaining to career and technical education and workforce development, which will hopefully work to close the skills gap. He worked to strengthen retirement security by spearheading the passage of the SECURE Act in December, which includes reforms sponsored by Portman designed to help more Americans save for their retirement. Senator Portman has also taken a leading role in the effort to pass the USMCA, the new trade agreement, which luckily was signed by the president just recently and is through. We did it. It was a long process, but we're happy it's done now. We think it'll be really good for Ohio and open up a lot of markets for American farmers, workers, and manufacturers. Since given our location, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Protecting Faith-Based and Nonprofit Organizations from Terrorism Act, which was a bill that authorized the Department of Homeland Security's Nonprofit Security Grant Program, which provides grants to nonprofits and faith-based organizations to help secure their facilities against potential attacks. We've seen a number of those in the news in recent years, and it's something that's very important to Senator Portman. And I think I will stop there for you this morning. Just a few things I wanted to highlight. It's great to see you all. Ever any questions or concerns? We have an office up in Toledo that I'm at. We also have one in Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. You're welcome to reach out anytime. Thank you.
All right, now we will begin with our wonderful mayors. Mr. Keith Leffel from Village of New Knoxville will go first.
Good morning and welcome. I'd like to thank Sarah for putting this all together, and Jamie. Appreciate all the work the chamber does, and it's always a great event. It's good to get here every year and see the same familiar faces. That's really why I enjoy doing this. I really don't enjoy speaking, but I enjoy seeing the same instrumental people in all our communities. So welcome, and it's good to see everybody. Last year was kind of a continuation of the previous couple years. Our income tax total for the year was a 2% increase, and that we actually eclipsed 400,000 for the first time. We came in a little bit over 410,000, so it's the highest we've ever had. Our revenues for 2019 19 was 3.2 million, and our expenses were 2.7. So we've seen a 15% increase in our revenues, and we had a 14% increase in our expenditures due to some of the projects that we did this year. So it was a very successful year. We had 13 building permits we issued for a little over a $3 million investment in the community. So I want to thank all the businesses and thank all those individuals that invested in New Knoxville and really helped to have a successful 2019. On the economic development front, we welcomed some new businesses. Jeremy Holman and Mike Sawmiller in November opened up a new facility in our industrial park called Advanced Machining Solutions, and that's gone very well, and we're happy to have them and thankful that they came. In May, Tom and Jack Leffel moved into the building and with Modern Ag Solutions in the industrial park, so they're on their feet doing well, and I want to thank Tom and Jack for that. And as well as Crown Equipment's been in our community for 28 years. They've been a valuable partner of New Knoxville, and they finished up their addition to the motor plant and are moved in that as well. So it's been a very good year from that place, from that standpoint, as far as economic development goes. And we kind of buttoned up Northfield Place. Dale Niemeyer and Krista Upperman. It was kind of a project from the beginning of the year, but it kind of ended up in 2019, and that's going very well. So I'd like to thank them as well for their commitment to New Knoxville. So, you know, it was a very busy year. We had a Main Street paving project the state did, so which kind of caused us to do some things on Main Street, like new electric poles. You'll see we did some new signage this year. We had to finish up the Northfield estate, getting electric and running all that, as well as we extended Buckeye Street in our industrial park to accommodate Advanced Machining Solutions. So our staff was really busy, and I thank them. We have a great staff at Knoxville. I say that every year, but I mean it. So Rex, Abby, Juanita, Doug Kane, Shane Puckett, and John Dirksen, as well as our part-timers, Dwayne and Mextroth and Lee Schreier, do a great job. And we wouldn't be able to do all we do if they didn't work together so well. So you guys know as business owners and people in the community that people are so key. And as long as I've been mayor here, we have a very, very good group. And hats off to them. They make my job really easy. They're the ones that really toe the rope. So I want to say thank you to them. 2020, we're looking at doing, we're in the process right now, engineering and some grant work on looking on a storm sewer drainage issue on New Bremen Street and possibly widening New Bremen Street coming into town. And then it's really not our project, but we're kind of excited to see the commissioners complete the airport terminal. I think it's going to be a really nice asset to our community, and I'd like to thank them for all the work they've done on that. Other than that, you know, Chris McKinney, our police chief, does a great job. We had 311 calls for service last year. We added 5 new cameras. He continues to do some really neat things, and appreciate all the effort he does, and as well as his staff. I want to say a special thank you to Al Solomon. He's always been supportive of New Knoxville. I know he's retiring, but so we have a part-time force, so there's times we need to lean on Auglaize County Sheriff for help, and last year they helped us out with 28 calls, so his group's always been great, and so thank you. As far as our fire department goes, Chief Jerry Murgis is out of town today, but they had 90 total calls last year. 46 of them were for medical, and 51 were for accidents, fires, miscellaneous. We added 5 new firemen. We received a grant from the BWC for cancer mitigation project. And probably the key thing that Jack and Jerry have been is they've worked really hard on creating a long-term capital improvement and equipment process just to look at what kind of expenditures we have coming down the road. They spent a lot of time looking at our needs and what we would see in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I want to thank them. But I want to make special notice to, I'll end my speech on this today, so I'd really like to thank all the volunteers, okay? So some of you may have seen it in Evening Leader, and you know, that's the first I heard of it. So sometimes people always ask me what's going on, and I said, you know what, being mayor sometimes, you're the last person that knows what's going on. But But I picked up the paper, sitting down reading it, and I seen where our fire department responded to a person that collapsed out here in the church parking lot, okay? And at first they thought it was a seizure, and one of our responders who lives close by showed up on foot, started attending to the person, you know, got all the agencies involved, and when our first responders showed up, they got the AED unit out, and they needed to use it, and they got them transported, and it was a success story, okay? Without great volunteers and people that put the time in, somebody probably wouldn't be here. So I want to make special thank you to all the volunteers in all the communities, because that's not an easy job. That's a lot of time. Mostly in small communities, it's a volunteer position. So thank you to that group. I know I talked to Jerry, and he said it was a combination of I'll quote him, he said it was the benefit of a quick trained response and quality CPR. And he had told me that they had just upgraded their AED, and they were over at New Bremen working with New Bremen's EMS on the training and, you know, kind of going over the whole process on what you do. And then we have a great working relationship with St. Mary's and New Bremen and our neighbors. So it's all that together, and which is all volunteers. So I'd like to say thank you to all those volunteers, and because they're dedicated people who give selflessly of their time and treasures, and you know, everybody has a different skill set, but that's what really makes our communities great is our volunteers. So I want to thank those guys and the fire department. And one other shout out to Mark Howe. Mark Howe was on council for 16 years, and most of that time he was our council president, and this is his last term. And I really appreciate all the effort and work that he did, and it was really good having him on there for 16 years, and we'll miss him, but I want to thank him for his service. So once again, thanks for coming, and appreciate everything everybody does. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Next up, we have Mr. Dennis Kitzmiller, Village of Minster.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for having us here again and listen to us one more year. The breakfast was great. That's why we're all here. I'm not sure you're really here to hear all our stuff, but the breakfast was great. I have just a few things I want to share with you, what we did last year, and a few things that we hope to accomplish this year. As we welcome in the new decade with a fresh start, I would like to recap some activities that occurred in the village in the past year. Once again, just like every other year, 2019 was another busy year for all the departments in the village. Numerous projects and activities that continue to improve the quality of life for our residents were started or completed last year. This continues to be the trend in the village over the past few years, and looks like it will be the trend into the new decade. Village officials and employees kept the village moving forward. To start our 2019 recap, I would like to talk about a major street project and upgrade that began in and will be completed in 2020. After a bit of a rocky start with Mother Nature, work began on the Northeast Substation project and the reconstruction of 2nd Street and Garfield. This project involved the installation of a large sanitary sewer that will not only allow continued growth for the northeast corner of the village, but will aid in diverting flows from other sewers, which over the past several years have seen increases in amount of sanitary flow, which caused backup in some homes on the south end of Minster during heavy rains. As we installed this sewer, we also took advantage of both 2nd Street and Garfield Street were tore up to install new water lines, storm sewers, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and asphalt. A portion of the project on 2nd Street has been completed from Main to the canal, and the rest of the street from Main to Garfield will be completed this next year. Another annual project that was completed in 2019 was a maintenance program on streets. 2 major streets in the village, Ohio Street and 7th Street, were repaved. In 2020, with the increase in gas tax revenue, the village will hope to receive, we will continue this program and hope to add more streets to it. The village also put new curbs and gutters along Ohio Street. They removed all the old ones and they reinstalled all new ones, made that nice. The electrical department also continued to improve our electrical system to increase the reliability for our electrical customers, crews completed the total rebuild of the underground electric service at the Parkview subdivision and the Rosebud subdivision. This involved putting all new lines in and new transformers. In 2020, the electric department will be upgrading the underground in the areas of Lakewood, Hamilton, and Stallo. Electrical crews also started on the construction of a new substation. The substation will replace a substation on North Ohio Street that was built back in the 1970s. Most of the $2 million project is being completed by our village electrical crews and should be completed in 2020. The new substation is just being built is west of the existing substation. Our Parks Department did a complete renovation on the gazebo in the Minster Machine Centennial Park. A new roof, new railings, new steps were replaced just in time for last year's Oktoberfest. Another major achievement by both the Public Works Department and the Electric Department was the creation of the village's mapping system using GPS technology. Crews worked throughout 2019 building a mapping system and developing a database for all the village's water, wastewater, storm, and electric utilities. This database will allow easy access for the village to pull up any information with the click of a mouse. In addition to the mapping system, the village also created a new GIS position that will oversee this program. Scott Langenkamp, who had a background in GIS, was appointed to that position. Our water department completed the painting of the Ohio Street water tower, made sure that project went off well. It was approximately 20 years since that had been painted prior. Some other positive achievements in the village saw in 2019, the renewal of the village's electrical efficiency program. This will be our 7th year that the village has offered this energy efficient program to our electric customers. It provides customers with a way to reduce their electric consumption by implementing energy efficient measures. Also in 2019, Minster Jackson Township Fire Department received an award, a grant from the Bureau of Workmen's Compensation to purchase equipment to clean turnout gear more efficiently. The village also received notification that the village's iOS rating went from a 4 to a 3. This rating is based upon the village's water system and fire department and is used to determine the insurance rates for residents inside the village. The Village Planning Commission and the council did a complete review of the zoning code and recommended numerous changes and updates to the code. These changes went into effect in late December. The last time that zoning code was reviewed was in the early 2000s. One of our police officers in the police department, Patrolman Eric Morris, completed training to become a master criminal investigator, and the chief of police was notified that he has been selected to attend the FBI National Command Course in 2020. A total of 34 building permits were issued in 2019 with a value of $9.3 million. Of those 34 building permits, 8 were for new single-family homes valued at slightly less than $5.4 million. And 3 were for commercial and industrial at a value of $3.2 million. Income tax continued to remain steady. In 2019, the village received approximately $4.1 million in income tax revenue. In addition, the village recently just received $293,000 in revenue from the recently passed fire and EMS. These funds go directly into the operation of the fire department and provide compensation for the Minster Area Life Squad. The business community also grew in 2019. Several small businesses moved into the village. And we saw a substantial investment by Minster Nidec as they expanded their facility to accommodate their press remanufacturing division. Finally, the State Route 66 Industrial Park will see a new business located there. As was announced earlier, Chiltex, a supplier of heating and air conditioning service, will be moving into the park in 2020. So what does 2020 look like to the village? It looks like it will be another very busy year for the employees. The continued work on the Northeast Sanitary Sewer project from 2nd Street to Garfield will be wrapped up this year. The electrical department will complete the construction of the new substation mentioned earlier with the transfer of the electric service over to that station. The village will continue to work with the Village of New Bremen to complete the fire and EMS consolidation study. Finally, construction will begin on a new pickleball and basketball court at the Four Seasons Park. A total of 8 pickleball courts and 2 basketball courts will be constructed in the early part of 2020. In closing, 2019 was a tremendous year for the village as we continue to work to provide improvements to quality of life for our citizens and hope to continue to add to that in 2020. I would like to thank all the residents and the businesses for making Minster a great community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Yep. All right. Bob, are you ready? I'm ready. All right. So New Bremen's newly elected mayor this year, Mr. Robert Parker.
Morning, everyone. First off, I'd just like to thank the Chamber for putting this event together. I'd like to thank all of our state, local, federal representatives for being here, taking time out of their busy schedules, come here and give us an update of what's happening at those levels. This is my 6th year attending this event, and it's amazing what you learn, what's going on in government that you don't hear about in the media. So much is, lately it's just talk about impeachment, and there is so much more going on. So I'd also like to thank the First Church of New Knoxville for hosting us and Main Street for providing a wonderful breakfast. So 2019 was a year of change for the Village of New Bremen. One of those is standing right here in front of you. Jeff Pape has been a staple at this event for the last 16 years, and I want to thank him for his years of service to the Village of New Bremen. Jeff served as a counselor for 8 years prior to running for mayor, and the past 6 years that I've been on council, I've worked with Jeff very closely, can attest to the fact that Jeff has always had the very best interest of the village in mind, and he's put countless hours into improving the Village of New Bremen. So thank you very much, Jeff, for your service. New Bremen also had another retirement in 2019. Bob Moeller retired from the electric department in October of 2019 after 33 years with the village. I didn't personally know Bob very well, but everybody spoke very highly of him. We also have some new faces in the village. As you learned earlier, Jessica Lamonkin has joined our council, and she was sworn in last Monday night to fill my council seat. So welcome, Jessica, and thank you very much for stepping up to serve your community. This past year, we also welcomed Matt Layfeld to the village as Utility Operations Manager. Matt brought a wealth of experience from Shin Brothers Construction, and it's great having him on board. On a sad note, we have lost 2 pillars in our community this past year, Diane Comments and Terry Dick. Diane was always a very big supporter of the community and made countless donations to the schools and various organizations, and most recently blessed us with a wonderful new park downtown. Terry Dick, who passed away this past weekend, and his viewing and funeral was last night, was one of the founding members of the New Bremen Emergency Squad. And it was Terry's vision that made our squad what it is today. Terry set the bar high when it came to the quality of service that we've come to know on the squad, and we continue to benefit from his vision. From a financial perspective, the state of the village is strong. Tax receipts for 2019 were $4,023,708, which is down a little bit from our tax receipts from 2018, which were $4,141,099. The strong economy has kept our tax receipts above the $4 million mark, but we can't rest on our laurels. We have to stay fiscally responsible and be prepared for a downturn when it eventually does come. We have a lot of aging infrastructure in the village, but we believe we have a good plan on updating that as time and resources are available. While there were no major projects undertaken in 2019, there was a lot of planning and activity that would be happening in 2020, for which I will cover in a second. But first, I'd like to highlight some of the smaller accomplishments that we made in the village in 2019. Last January, we did see the new snow machine crank out snow for the first time on our new sledding hill, which this past year we named White Mountain. This name fits perfectly as it keeps a little bit of history alive in New Bremen. Does anybody remember the old White Mountain Creamery? What a joy it was to see so much activity on that activity on that hill last winter. So far this winter isn't really cooperating from a temperature perspective, but we hope to get that fired up very soon again. At the beginning of last year, we also increased the annual pay for our fire chief and our assistant fire chief to be more in line with area departments. We had access controls put on all our village buildings so that we could track and limit access to village property. The New Bremen School broke ground on a new K-8 facility, which we should move into later this year. We did receive our leaf truck back from an accident that happened a couple years ago, and would also like to give a big shout out to the Village of Minster for saving us during that period when we were without a leaf truck. I know it was a little stressful time for the residents of New Bremen, and probably for Minster too, as they were inconvenienced when we were using their truck, but you don't realize how much you utilize a piece of equipment until you don't have it. We completed our first year of the Auglaize Mercer County YMCA managing our local pool. We recently approved them to continue this relationship into 2020. That relationship worked out really well for us this past year. We've been implementing a software system called Dude Solutions in the village to track work orders. That project's going well. This past year, we had our first what I'd call a collaboration meeting with the Village of Minster to start to figure out how we can share resources and save taxpayer dollars, and that collaboration's been going well. We passed a renewal levy for the EMS. We ended up purchasing the Voorhees property for the location of a new electrical substation in town on the north end of town. And we secured a loan from First National Bank and Minster Bank for that new electrical substation that's currently in the process of being built. And we made aeration improvements at the local sewage plant. We do have great associates in the Village of New Bremen, and I'd just like to highlight two events that happened this past year to show this. Last January, we had a major snow and wind event, which you probably all remember from last January. It cut power to many local communities for several hours, but New Bremen never lost power through that time period. And the reason that happened is a couple years ago, our electric department suggested we contract with DP&L to put a switch in to allow us to control where our power is fed from in the event of a power outage. Since this was done, we've only had minor power outages in the Village of New Bremen. It may go out, and within 5 minutes we have our power back. Another example is this past summer we had a water main break at Monroe Street up by the railroad tracks, and while this did affect a few residents, the impact was really minimized because our village associates repaired that line while under pressure, which kept residents from not having to boil water post-break. To do a repair under pressure takes additional time and care, but our village associates spent their valuable time on a Saturday afternoon and evening when I'm sure they didn't want to be there, doing this to benefit the residents of New Bremen. Okay, now to the projects we have planned for 2020. I've already mentioned the new electrical substation. We knew a new substation would eventually be required in the future, but the Crown expansion moved this timetable up. I don't know if anybody's seen the new expansion at Crown, but it's quite a plant on the addition of Plant 4. While there was a lot of controversy on where to place this, it does make sense to have it on the north side of the village for both cost and in case of a natural disaster. It's good that we don't have all our eggs in one basket. Over the next several days, you will see work beginning, and I think that actually started this week, at the corners of Monroe and Washington and Main and Monroe for new traffic signals in town. Our current traffic signals are well past their prime, and it's been difficult to get parts for them. We will be putting poles in at both those intersections, And there was also a little bit of controversy with the sign at the corner of 66 and Monroe about, taking that sign down that was informative to people, but that has come down, and we'll be looking at what we do with that sign in the future. But we will be putting poles in at those two intersections, and the lights should be operational by the fall of 2020. We're doing another major street reconstruction project at Franklin and Ash Streets. Work has already started on this. Those streets are already pretty torn up, but we hope to have that project completed by July. And as Dennis said, we're working on a joint study with the Village of Minster to evaluate the needs of fire and EMS between the two villages. While this list is not all-inclusive, you can see we do have a lot going on in the Village of New Bremen. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So I just want to say thank you all for attending this morning. I think it went rather smoothly. If you have any questions, concerns, feel free to ask Cam and Kayla, or if you need to get a hold of anybody, let me know. I can get their contact information. Thank you to NK Telco for replaying the program. It will be on Saturday, February 1st, Sunday, February 2nd, and Monday, February 3rd, if anybody wants to rewatch it. Also, one more thing, we do have our annual meeting coming up, and that's what those papers are on your table. If you want to take one, feel free. It is also up on our website there, which is March 3rd. So if you know of anybody you want to nominate, please do that. It always helps us. And that's pretty much all I have for this year. Thank you very much for coming. Have a great day.